Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Independence City Council for Monday, May 7th, 2018. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Elizabeth Strobel, pastor of Trinity Presbyterian Church. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, we thank you for your many blessings so freely bestowed upon us here in Independence. We pray for your wisdom and guidance for our mayor and our council members as the business of our city is conducted this evening. May the decisions made here honor you and benefit our citizens. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
DeLucy. Here. Robertson.
Here.
Van Camp.
Here.
Mayor Ware.
Here. Our first presentations this morning are the 2018 Preserve Independence Awards.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Shea, and I'm the city's Historic Preservation Manager. National Historic Preservation Month is celebrated annually throughout the month of May by the City of Independence to recognize the city's historic built environment and its diverse heritage. Preservation Awards were established in 2001 by the Independence Heritage Commission. They were developed to honor the challenges of preserving Independence's rich heritage and intended to recognize the efforts of individuals, organizations, and projects that display an exemplary commitment to historic preservation and independence. This year's annual Preservation Awards were recently renamed the Preserve Independence Awards and streamlined to reflect individuals, groups, and specific projects that capture the spirit of preservation advocacy in our city. The award categories include Distinguished Service for an individual or organization and Outstanding Building Restoration or Rehabilitation. I would now like to turn the presentation over to the Chair of the Heritage Commission, Amy Hart, for the distribution of this year's awards.
Good evening. My name is Amy Hart. I'm the chair of the Independence Heritage Commission. It's my pleasure to introduce the following recipients of the 2018 Preserve Independence Awards. The first of this year's recipients is Dorothy I. Francis. Dorothy began her volunteer service at the Bingham Wagner Estate, but soon after got involved with the relocation and restoration of the Chicago and Alton Depot, where she continues to serve on the board of directors. Whether getting her hands dirty cleaning or painting, or working tirelessly to catalog artifacts, create displays, or help with the depot's famous excursions, Dorothy is a passionate and invaluable volunteer. For her commitments to the success of the CNA Depot and to the overall tourism efforts within the city, the 2018 Preserve Independence Award recipient for Distinguished Service is presented to Dorothy I. Francis. Our next recipients are Rory and Jill Ritchie. The Ritchies spend much of their years assisting operations at the Vail Mansion, including work during the Strawberry Festival and during the busy Christmas season. The Ritchies' most recent accomplishment was tackling the organizing and meticulous cleaning of the Vail Mansion basement. For their ongoing dedication to the preservation of the Vail Victorian Mansion, the 2018 Preserve Independence Award recipients for Distinguished Service is presented to Rory and Jill Ritchie. There are many events throughout the month of May that celebrate National Historic Preservation Month. They include anniversary celebrations of the establishment of the Oregon Trail, special lectures and presentations, as well as tours. We wish to thank all of the community and heritage organizations that make this celebration possible. They include the National Park Service, the Oregon-California Trails Association, the Midwest Genealogy Center, the Jackson County Historic Society, and the Independence Historic Sites. If you'd like any additional information concerning the upcoming events, please go to the city's Historic Preservation website for additional information, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations to our award winners for being here tonight, and to all of you that I see out here this evening who came out to support them and share their passion for our historic preservation. Great awards, and I've been in the basement of the Vale, so I know what a big job that is. Congratulations. Our next presentation resolution is a resolution recognizing MJ Jones, Business License Compliance Officer in the Community Development Department, as the Employee of the Month for May 2018. MJ, unfortunately, is not here this evening to be able to accept this, so we will present that at a later time. But Madam City Clerk, why don't you read the resolution for council approval?
Whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects the Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service, and whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected MJ Jones, Business License Compliance Officer in the Community Development Department, as Employee of the Month for May 2018. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Independence, Missouri as follows: that the City Council of the City of Independence, Missouri joins in recognizing MJ Jones as the City of Independence Employee of the Month for May 2018.
Thank you very much. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Okay. We have several proclamations this evening. The first is the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault Start by Believing campaign.
Whereas the City of Independence shares a critical concern for victims of sexual violence and a desire to support their needs for justice and healing, and whereas in 2017, the Independence Police Department received 257 sex offense reports and 34 rape reports, and the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault provided advocacy and crisis line services to 2,297 survivors of sexual assault. And whereas current estimates suggest no more than 20% of sexual assaults will be reported to law enforcement, and less than 3% will result in the conviction and incarceration of the perpetrator. And whereas research documents that victims are far more likely to disclose their sexual assault to a friend or family member, and when these loved ones respond with doubt, shame, or blame, victims suffer additional negative effects on their physical and psychological well-being. And whereas the Start by Believing public awareness campaign, a program of End Violence Against Women International, is designed to improve the responses of friends, family members, and community professionals so they can help victims to access supportive resources and engage the criminal justice system. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim May 7th, 2018 as Start by Believing Day, and urge all citizens to support and educate others about this public awareness campaign and ways to support others in crisis.
Okay, thank you. Mike Metis, is that yes. Is here to accept the proclamation, and there you go. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. If you'd like to say a few words, please help yourself. Thanks.
So again, my name is Mike Metis. I'm a victims advocate for the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault, and the program Start by Believing is a great program for victims of sexual violence. We lose nothing when we start by believing, for it's such a hard thing for victims to often come forth and to do this. And so I want to thank the city for this, and the mayor, and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. Okay, our next proclamation is for National Women Build Week. Madam City Clerk.
Whereas each year, Habitat for Humanity, in partnership with Lowe's Companies, Inc., celebrates National Women Build Week to highlight the efforts of its Women Build program, which recruits, educates, and empowers women to build and advocate for decent and affordable housings in their communities. And whereas this year, Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity, a service agency for the City of Independence, will once again join 300 Habitat for Humanity affiliates across all 50 states and uniting more than 17,000 women volunteers in women build sites across the country. And whereas this initiative helps provide decent and affordable home ownership opportunities and lifts neighborhoods and the pride of residents through the joint efforts between Habitat and its partner families, volunteers, sponsors, community organizations, and business and government leaders. And whereas the City of Independence has awarded grant funding to Truman Heritage for Habitat for Humanity through the federal home program that will result in the development of 2 vacant and blighted properties for affordable home ownership opportunities for women-led family households. Whereas during the National Women Build Week, more than 250 women in our community will join Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity to build a place for a woman-led family to call home, a place where her family can achieve the strength, stability, and independence needed to build a better life. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, Missouri, by the virtue of the authority vested in her, does hereby proclaim the week of May 7th through May 12th, 2018 as National Women Build Week, and call upon the people of Independence to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
Okay, thank you. And Christina Leakey from Truman Habitat is here. Tomorrow morning we'll be having another celebration to kick things off. So I'll read it again. Thanks, Christina. Oh, Meg wants her picture. That's okay. Thank you. Okay, our next proclamation is for Drinking Water Week 2018.
Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some ways related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas the City Water Department supplies water to approximately 250,000 people, including residents of Independence and 12 wholesale customers, and whereas the water supplied and treated from the 42 wells at the Courtney Bend Water Treatment Plant meets or exceeds all federal and state water quality regulations, and whereas according to the 2018 Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting Contest, the City of Independence water is one of the top 5 municipal waters in the world. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, by the authority vested in her, does hereby proclaim May 6th through 12th, 2018 as Drinking Water Week in Independence, Missouri, and calls upon citizens in our community to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues.
Thank you. Oh, there you are. Yeah, thank you. Don't run off. Okay. It's a busy month. Next, we have a proclamation for Infrastructure Week 2018.
Whereas Independence relies on critical infrastructure, including our roads and bridges, our trails and sidewalks, our railroads and transit systems, our pipes and water system, our reliable power supply, and our connectivity to the regional, national, and global economy. And whereas this infrastructure enhances our local and regional economy, our quality of life, our safety, and the strength of our communities. And whereas in February 2017, the city manager published a report identifying $985 million of deferred maintenance and improvement needs for Independence utilities, streets, bridges, parks, and municipal buildings. And whereas to grow our economy, keep Americans safe, and strengthen our communities, we need all levels of government and the private sector to work together to rebuild and repair our nation's infrastructure. And whereas the City of Independence adopted adequate and sustained funding for public infrastructure and transportation as one of its top 3 federal and state legislative priorities. And whereas Infrastructure Week challenges policymakers and the public to address the challenges facing U.S. infrastructure, to move beyond short-term fixes and deferred maintenance, and to envision the innovative solutions, technologies, policies, and investments that will improve America's infrastructure future. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, by virtue of the authority vested in her by the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim the week of May 14th through 21st, 2018 as National Infrastructure Week in Independence, and calls upon citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing adequate and sustained funding for the nation's public infrastructure.
Okay, thank you, Morris. Okay, next is a proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month 2018.
Whereas Historic Preservation Month is celebrated annually throughout the month of May, both locally and nationally, in order to recognize the significant role that preservation plays in our daily lives. And whereas the 2018 theme is Trailblazers, to recognize both past and contemporary pioneers in Independence history. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods and commercial districts, promoting sustainability, fostering civic pride, and maintaining character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is essential to heritage tourism in the 21st century economy. And whereas the city's dedicated historic site volunteers and community preservationists provide continuous support and advocacy for our cultural resources, and whereas the promotion and preservation of the city's historic buildings and sites is critical to the identity of Independence. And whereas historic preservation is significant for communities across the nation, for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim the month of 2018 as National Historic Preservation Month, and calls upon the people of Independence to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
Hi, Wendy?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, our next proclamation is for Kids to Park Day.
Whereas Parks Day. Whereas May 19th, 2018 is the 8th Kids to Parks Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our local, state, and national parks. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesteremia. And whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, Missouri, does hereby proclaim May 19th, 2018 as Kids to Parks Day, and encourages our citizens to participate in the live-action Oregon Trail game at the Hiram Young Park from 10 a.m. through 4 p.m. on Saturday, May 19th, 2018. Teams will compete in a live-action version of the classic game, completing challenges based on the journey to Oregon, with prizes awarded for those who complete the journey in the shortest time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here and accepting these proclamations. As I say, it's a busy month. May is a popular time to try to get all these things in. This takes us to our consent agenda.
Mayor Weir?
Yes, Councilmember?
Van Camp?
Yeah, Van Camp, yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see.
Yes,
I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Mayor,
it's been,
Mayor,
yes,
I'd like to pull number 1.
okay. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Huff, do you have something you'd like to pull for separate consideration?
Let me go ahead and speak
Yeah,
now.
go
Okay.
ahead.
What I wanted to pull this one for, I'm going to vote for it. I'm not against it. I've been down at Power and Light for 34 years, as most people know. All these rate studies always come back, hey, raise the rates, raise the rates. My expectations on this is a little different. I'm wanting to see ways to make us more competitive rather than a rate increase, whatever that takes, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor, he just pulled number 1, correct?
Uh-huh,
I pull 18740.
okay. Any other items? Okay, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item number 1 in resolution 18740?
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilman Huff's already spoken on item number 1. Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I do have questions, but I'll second that in order to have a
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I do have questions for the city manager. Mr. City Manager, can you tell me who were the 3 finalists on this bid for $92,400? And was it a bid or was it a contract put out by the city for that price? I'm not understanding this.
Certainly. Madam Mayor, members of the council, the 3 vendors that were considered for this were Powers Engineering, a firm called PRMG, and of course Burns & McDonnell, who is the staff recommendation. This was what we call a request for qualifications, so it was a qualifications-based selection. So in this instance, we were looking for who we thought provided the greatest amount of expertise and fit with what the city's looking for. Quite frankly, some of the things that Councilmember Huff just mentioned as well, you know, you'll see that in here, that we're looking to be competitive with our neighboring utilities and our regional competitors in that field. So we were really looking for who brought forward the most alignment with our vision, and then made the selection based on qualifications and negotiated a price thereafter.
Okay, and so I have a problem, not a problem, I have a concern, that's the better way to put it, with Burns & McDonnell, because they're also doing our master plan. And I know, you know, from one side, it's a good thing because, you know, we can coordinate everything all together. And from another, I'm concerned that the master plan and the rate study are going to be codependent on each other. And we just went through a rate study. We spent a lot of money on that rate study, and we adopted nothing from that rate study.
Right.
So I am very concerned about that.
I would say that I think staff does see it as a benefit that those 2 projects are being worked on by the same vendor, because inherently we see those as related to one another. Power production is a very costly endeavor, very capital intensive, a lot of expense associated with it. So I think the insight that Burns and Mac is going to have from doing that study is going to be very dependent on how that cost of service study turns out and the results that that yields. So being familiar with that will actually, in our opinion, benefit the council in making their final determinations on both of those. And I do understand that you know, we want to be sensitive to cost and maintain our fiduciary responsibility. But the Sawville study that you're referencing, that was actually initiated about 4 years ago now. The results of that presented to the council about 3 years ago. And as you say, council at that time did make the determination to stay flat, stay the same. But I think a lot of those assumptions are now dated. I mean, many of them are still viable, as we found out from the management partners report that looked at, you know, some of the recommendations of the Sawville study. But I think making sure we get this rate study right is very important, and therefore we want to make sure we provide the council with the most up-to-date information possible.
Could you just caution Burns & McDonnell not to make them interdependent? Because I am so afraid that we're, You know, if I don't like something in the rate study, but I love the generation plan, I may feel compelled to vote for the rate study recommendations, even though I don't like them, because they're too interdependent. So that's my only caution with this.
Yeah, I think you're going to find with Burns & McDonnell, they're a firm that's going to be very thoughtful and strategic in that, and I think you're going to have a great deal of confidence in both products that you get back.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Perkins.
the reason we're doing the cost study because of the management partners after their presentation to their audit. This is one of their recommendations. So the city went back and started a conversation with staff to start moving on this. So this isn't kind of a knee jerk. This was something that was recommended to us and that to move forward with.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Councilmember. So when we got the report in last July from Management Partners, there were 28 recommendations that came out of that. Many of those, and I don't have the exact number at my fingertips, but I would, in excess of 10 of those recommendations were related to doing a revised cost of service study. And Management Partners was very clear that what they were doing was not a true cost of service study, but more high level, and encouraged us to go back and look at, you know, how do you adequately cover your costs, but how do you get also competitive with your regional peers, both locally in the metro and statewide. And I think we've taken those recommendations seriously. We've waited a year. We've been thoughtful about making sure that we're, you know, getting our expenditures where we believe they should be, and I think we still have other things we want to do. But I do think, as staff, we believe the timing's appropriate to embark on this endeavor now.
And to put minds at ease at the end of this study, this isn't going to be an automatic rate increase. This isn't anything that's going to be an automatic.
No, there is no predetermined outcome here at all. And in fact, I met with the consultant prior to this meeting. We've had a lot of good discussions about, you know, he's very interested in making sure he understands the lay of the land, both from a financial standpoint, but also what's acceptable in the community. And I think you're going to get something that's, as I said, very unbiased, but also very aware of where we're at as a community and an organization.
Then under Article 3, period of service, so I think we'll be able to get this done by September 30th? I mean, that's seems like a pretty big task, but that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not.
I think they will be able to deliver upon that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councilman Robertson?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in a couple comments and a question. So I do think that there's a big advantage to using them since they're doing the generational study for us as well, and that they are in the region. That was one of my concerns with the Sawville study, that they were not as familiar with the region and the regional power companies, both municipal and public owned. So I think there's a big advantage to using Burns & Mac for this, for both of those reasons. I guess the question I have is the cost. The cost actually is a third to a fourth of what we paid for the Sawville study, so it's considerably less expensive. And I just want to make sure that we're going to get a good study. I'm assuming we will, and I think Burns & Mac has done a lot of these in the past, but I'm just curious why the cost is so much less than what we paid for the Sawville study, and will they piggyback on some of the things that Sawville talked about with the consolidation of different rates and the categories and all that.
And Councilmember, to your point, in speaking with the consultant prior to the meeting this evening, he is going to familiarize himself with some of the terms of the Sawville study, familiarize himself with the Management Partners report. I think any information that he can glean that will help him, but he is approaching this in a very unbiased format, making sure he comes in without any preconceived notions or any of that. I got every assurance in visiting with him, as you said, based locally, but working with both local and national public power, co-ops, and privately owned. I think you're getting a tremendous amount of expertise at a tremendous value.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item number 1 passes. Resolution 18740, Councilmember DeLucy.
Madam Mayor, this is a resolution appointing someone to the PUAB. I've been attending those PUAB meetings for quite some time, on and off when my schedule allows it. I'm also on a subcommittee to interview candidates for this. I know that we have a vacancy based on a week ago or so. A person who had been on the board for a long period of time simply missed too many meetings, so a vacancy was declared. And so I had asked the city clerk to get a committee together, us together, to look at applications, and then I heard that we only had 1 or 2. And so I wanted to use tonight as an announcement to everybody that we have a vacancy on the PUAB, and it's a very important board, and I would like people to apply to that board and perhaps give them a deadline, and then also seek council guidance and how far back do we go for the applications. I had always understood that if I applied for a committee and I was not chosen for the committee, I did not need to reapply because my application stayed in the hopper. And I understand that that is not necessarily how it is, really. And so I would like, A, to pull this item and table it in order to allow the subcommittee time to review the existing applications, of which I think there are 6 that date back 3 or 4 years, and to announce that there's a vacancy on the PUAB. And it's a very important board, and we're facing very big questions, and I encourage people to apply. So that's the purpose of my pulling that item,
So what is your motion?
to table it.
I'll second it.
Okay, table it till when?
The end of June, I would think, would give people enough time to apply.
Okay, so, Madam City Clerk, will you tell us the date, please?
Yes. The second meeting in June would be the 18th.
June
Okay.
18th.
I have a couple of questions. The council did determine recently that we would go back to utilizing a council interview committee to interview candidates. That's a rotating committee. Can, Madam City Clerk, has a meeting been scheduled for the interview committee?
No, not
Okay.
right now.
Okay, that was my first question. I understand we have a member who, due to circumstances, has missed a number of meetings, which by the bylaws of the committee means that he has effectively resigned his position. Has he been notified? Have we been able to confirm that with him?
That is my understanding, that he was given a letter. It was talked about at their last meeting.
Is that correct? I mean, I just want to make sure that.
At the last meeting of the council's PUAB, the board was notified of the bylaws and then was asked to communicate that to the council that he had missed those bylaws. Correct, correct. Procedurally, all that did occur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, I agree with Councilmember DeLucy in that and my understanding also is that once somebody applies for a board or commission, if they're not selected, that they stay in the pipeline in the event that another vacancy might come up and they would still be eligible for that, or they would at least be contacted and say, are you still interested? Is that the procedure?
Yes and no.
Okay.
When we had the council interview committee prior to this rotating committee, I know at least on one occasion I was told once an application has been reviewed and not selected, the committee would tell me to keep it for future, or no, let's send a thank you, but no thank you letter. And I have kind of kept that sort of policy in place in my office. So there are, Councilmember DeLucy is correct, there are a couple applications from 2014, 2015 that were not supplied initially when I had sent an email out to the current 3 committee members.
Okay, so Councilmember DeLucy, let me just clarify that your motion would be that the candidates would be interviewed and a recommendation from the council interview committee would come back to the council on June the 18th.
That's what I would anticipate.
I just want to be clear that that's the motion. Yes, Councilman Robertson.
I just wanted to ask the rest of the council, I know we had spoken in the last year or so about this rotating interview committee. And I think it's still a good idea to do it that way. I think we need to come up with a consensus on how long we keep the applications, whether it's going to be for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because it's not fair if we tell people we're going to hang on to their application and then we never look at it again. It's appropriate to say we're going to keep it on file for 2 years. You can reapply if that's the case, or whatever we decide. But I think the council needs to decide on a procedure so that we're not telling people different things.
Yeah.
And that everybody gets the same message.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this procedure over and over and over again, and have not been very successful in coming to an agreement on how we want to do this. Or so why don't we put that on the agenda for the next study session to talk about this again and how we would like to handle these appointments to boards and commissions.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Perkins.
I totally agree with the council member. In the matter of fairness, and also in the matter of fairness, Councilman Huff has an appointee here, and if we're going to move forward in the process, which I do agree with, I'd hate to put Mr. Porter in limbo here. We have him on the agenda. I will support we move forward with the gentleman, Mr. Porter, who's on the agenda tonight, then start the fairness process, if you will, after this.
Okay, so there was a motion. Yes, Councilman.
Well, can I respond to Councilman Perkins? He would automatically be one of those interviewed. He would be one of the others that are interviewed besides the 2 applications as well as some of the past ones.
Sure. No, I agree with you,
Yeah.
but he's on the agenda now, though.
Councilman Doherty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was on this committee back when Jim Schultz and Myron Paris were on it in the Don Reimel mayor days. And we would bring a candidate forward, we'd interview them, and at the time, the council would just accept them. So after those gentlemen were no longer on the council, I remained on that committee, and as the chairman, if we had applications, it was the chairman's job to ask the clerk to pull them out of the file and relook at them. And most times we found they weren't interested, or the reason they didn't make it the first time held true to the second time. Now, we've had a fellow this is a very important board. They do a lot of good work for the city, and we've had an opening for quite some time. And, you know, the problem was we were on a committee, and we'd bring a group forward, and there were members right here on this dais that didn't like what the committee did and said, hey, I want to bring someone up that came up and cropped up the last minute. So you dissolve the whole committee, and then we were going to sort it out at the council, and they didn't like that, and they put the committee back together. So the other thing is we've got 2 more openings for reappointment, or openings in, I think, July 1.
July, I believe.
So knock yourself out. You got 2 more to sort through. Start tomorrow if you want. But I'm not going to support the notion because we've had a vacancy for a long time. I'd like to get it filled. And if y'all want to, then, you know, between now and the 1st of July, interview anybody that comes up. But if I have someone I think is good and they come up a week or so before, I'll share the application with you, but they may not be able to get off work or make the process or make it through your vetting process, and then it's not fair to the other members who may want to bring a candidate forward. So that's why I won't support the motion.
I agree that, and as I just said, we have struggled to come up with the right way to make these appointments. That said, this council agreed that we would have this rotating interview committee for appointments to certain boards and commissions, including the PUAB. It may not be perfect, but that is our current policy. And I believe until we change that policy that it's worth tabling this to a later date. We will discuss it at the study session next week and hopefully come to a procedure that is agreeable to everybody. But our current policy states that these people will be interviewed, and I certainly have no objection to the individual who Councilmember Huff has brought forward, but this council does have a standing policy as of today about how we will conduct this. Any other discussion? Yes, Councilmember Van Camp.
The last appointee to the board didn't go through this procedure. Should have, but didn't, and it worked. And I agree with Councilman
That was prior to the
Doherty
council
and
deciding that we
Councilman,
would reinstate.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I was speaking. That was prior
Let me
to
know
the
when you're through.
council. Okay, that was prior to the council deciding that it wanted to reinstate the interview committee.
Well, and as Councilman Doherty said, they knocked out the committee and didn't like it, and there's 2 more to go. I'm with Councilman Perkins that this is here now, and it isn't fair to change it. So I'd be voting against tabling it.
Just a point of clarification, Madam Mayor. The vacancy has existed for under 2 weeks.
Councilmember DeLucy, would you consider amending your motion to table this until the next regular council meeting so we can have the study session and sort out how we want to make these appointments?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Any further discussion?
So she withdrawn her motion? Where are we at?
Amending my motion
Oh, amending it?
to May 21. Table it till May 21.
So that will give us next week to discuss how we want to make these appointments.
Okay, no, I don't like that.
Any further discussion? Okay, will you please call the roll on the motion?
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Doherty,
No.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, motion fails. Will you please call the, oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember DeLucy?
I'm not making a motion to approve this candidate, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'm making the motion to approve this candidate.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any
Mayor.
discussion?
Yes, can I?
Yes.
And I've looked through the 6 past candidates that we still need to interview, as well as the 2 that we just recently got applications for within the last 6 months to a year. And the candidate that is before us now, my main concern is he filled out a quick application on Wednesday before the meeting, so 5 days ago, 6 days ago. There's nothing on his application about any volunteer experience with anything except his work as an employee of the water department and then eventually the city water department. So my concern is that, and I don't know him. I haven't interviewed him and I feel bad, but because there's really nothing on his application except he's applying for this, I have no background to make a decision. And if the fact that he doesn't have any experience as a volunteer, and this will be the first experience, I don't think this particular board is the first time that you should get experience as a volunteer. And so I will vote against this tonight, not because of him, but because of his application and the fact that we haven't interviewed him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. So let me get this straight. If you don't volunteer, then you're disqualified? Is that what you just said?
No experience. No
So
experience.
if you don't
as-
volunteer, you're disqualified?
Not-for-profit, yes. I think if
So
you're
you're
not
saying-
involved in community, I don't believe he's attended any PUAB meetings that I know.
Well, you
of.
don't know that, do
I don't
you?
know that.
Okay, so you're speculating that. So if you don't volunteer, so just everybody out there listening, if you don't volunteer, don't apply.
Well, if you have experience as a volunteer.
No, you
We-
said if you don't volunteer, don't apply. That's what you said. I mean, come on now. Shouldn't we just,
We want people that are excited about volunteering and being involved in the community.
I think the
And there's
fact.
no evidence in his application of that, Kurt.
No, I get that. I got that pretty clear. He didn't volunteer, so he don't qualify. But I think the background in that industry has a lot to do with it. And sometimes maybe when you're working, you don't have a lot of extra hours.
I know exactly how that is.
There you go,
But
okay.
I'm on a
Well, I got,
volunteer.
anybody who wants to apply, come give me your application, even if you didn't volunteer, okay? Thank you.
I'm sorry, was there a second on the motion?
It was.
There was,
Okay.
I second.
Okay, okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
No.
Robertson. Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Resolution passes. This brings us to our public hearing. This is an application from Brew Biz LLC for a manufacturing of intoxicating liquor license for tap room at Apex, located at 4356 South Nolan Road. This is a full public hearing.
Hey,
Yes.
mayors and members of the council,
Mr. Sell.
I'm sorry,
I went
Mayor
blank
and
for a
members.
second. I expected to see Tom Scannell up there, so you threw me.
Mayor and members of the council, I'm Charlie DeSalle, the Assistant Community Development Director. As council may recall, back on January 2nd of 2018, a license for intoxicating liquor by the drink was approved for this business at this location. This evening, the applicant is requesting to add a manufacturing license to the initial license so they can manufacture what I believe will be beer at their site.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a full public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this application? Oh, come on up.
I'm Jeremy Parrott. I'm the owner of Apex Brew and Barbecue Supplies, Brew Biz LLC. As we were just discussed, we got the approval for the liquor license on January 2nd, and we are simply applying for a manufacturer's license at this time. There's really nothing else that has changed at this point.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone, oh, just a second, let me finish the public hearing, then I'll get to council member. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Council member Van Camp.
Welcome back again. I don't know what's taking so long, but no, I do, and we've been on. I want to thank you for your community service on the branding committee.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's been a real eye-opening experience.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Okay, this does require a 2/3 majority vote for approval due to residential property being located within 300 feet of the establishment. Are there any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, would you proceed?
Council action is requested on the application received from Brew Biz LLC for a manufacturing of intoxicating liquor license for tap room at Apex, located at 4356 South Nolan Road.
Okay, thank you. This takes us to our, oh, sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Councilmembers Huff,
Call roll.
Yes.
Sorry.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, this takes us to our non-ordinance action item. Madam City Clerk.
Council action is requested to approve a contract with Ideker Inc. for the 2018 Asphalt Street Overlay Project number 701-11703 in the amount of $4,867,563.39, and authorizing administrative approval change orders not to exceed $250,000 and/or time extensions, and making the necessary appropriations.
This item, I asked for the Public Works Department to provide me with some background on our street overlay program, and they were able to give me information dating back to the 2002 street improvements overlay. We've done the program every year except for 2008, and I'm not exactly sure why that was, but for 13 of the 15 years, Superior Bowen Asphalt has been our contractor for this program. That is, except for 2005 and 2013. And then after both of those years, we returned to using Superior Bowen. There was such a small difference in the bids between the recommended bidder and Superior, who we have had a long relationship with and who I believe has always provided us with excellent product and service. that I would move that we award this contract to Superior Bowen Asphalt Company.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember DeLucy.
have we had a problem with Ideker?
We've worked with IDECR on a few other projects. They did your 2013 street overlay project. I don't know that I would make any disparaging comments about their work product other than just what the mayor just said, I guess.
And so Ideker was 60 or 70,000 cheaper than Superior?
I believe it was round number 66,000.
66,000?
So about less than 1% of the overall project cost.
And Madam Mayor, is there any other reason to substitute?
My understanding is that our public procurement process that we have in place really doesn't have an opportunity to take into account past performance. As I say, Superior's worked with us 13 of the last 15 years, and we've always had a high level of satisfaction. That doesn't factor into the equation at the staff level, but it does factor into the council decision, and with such a small difference, less than 1%, I don't see a need to move away from a company that we've used for the last several years and have been highly satisfied with. Councilmember Doherty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, we did a big subdivision out in the 2nd District, and I had several citizens call up and comment on how well the communication was with this contractor in facilitating getting their cars moved around, because it's how do you get to your house when you're grinding the street up and asphalting it? And they worked really good with those citizens. The citizens didn't have a complaint. They felt like the contractor went out of their way to help facilitate working during the hours where the people could get out of their house. And these are very close. They're both good companies, but we have used this company in the past, and I've had great luck with them, and really some good comments and good reports back. I feel comfortable with going ahead and making this change also. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, Councilman.
I do think that we need to look at our process that we go through in picking contracts like this. And it's not that I'm for or against any of them. I just think we need to be able to rate the performance, the job performance they provide, not only for 1 year, but maybe for several years. Obviously, Superior Bowen has done it for a number of years. And Ideker, how many years ago was it that Ideker did it? 5 years? 5 years. So I would be interested to know, some of the comments and the concerns from 5 years ago, because that would help me make a decision right now, unless we put it off, as to which company that I would be willing to pay more for Superior Bowen if I thought the performance was that much better, and it may be. So that's why I was hoping that maybe down the road, Public Works and maybe some of the other departments that have substantial contracts can factor in not only local companies like Superior Bowen, but also factor in the performance. The performance really should be one of the main factors that we look at besides the cost. And I know right now our criteria is simply cost.
Yeah, and as you point out, Councilmember Robertson, and we talked about this recently with our local preference policy as well. There's just a number of things in procurement that we're cleaning up right now to give ourselves some of that, allow staff to be as nimble in making the recommendation as possible.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Perkins.
I would also remind the council that I believe it was just last month that we awarded a contract to Palmer for doing their mowing for the City of Independence. And they were not the lowest bid, but they were the best bid, and we decided to put them and award the contract to them for the quality of work and the history and the quality of history that they had with the City of Independence. But this is doing this tonight is something that we have done in the past, and we've looked at all aspects of why we do this.
Yes, Councilman Van Camp.
And we have awarded contracts on being local, whereas we had a contract for 13 years out of country, and we decided for 17 thou a year to go the other way. And the performance was there, besides being lower. We just had one with the park department where we did it for local, and they had been doing it for 8 years, and we decided, and it was a low percentage, just like this. It's not unprecedented.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, will you please call the roll on the motion to substitute?
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
No.
Robertson.
No.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Do I need to read the?
Yes, I'll read it as that. Council action is requested to approve a contract with Superior Bowen for the 2018 Asphalt Street Overlay Project, number 701-11703, in the amount of $4,925,125.25, and authorizing administrative approval of change orders not to exceed $250,000 and/or time extensions, and making the necessary appropriations.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
I'm sorry, I didn't
Oh, I'm
catch all that.
sorry. It's just, we need to vote on the action item replacing Superior Bowen. So that's what no, it was on the motion to amend the action item. It's just a motion to award the contract.
So that, yes vote would award the contract, and no vote would not award the contract.
Okay, that's right. Okay. It'd be no.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to read that
yeah,
again?
so this is the motion to approve the 2018 overlay project for Superior Bowen. Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
No.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item passes. Okay, this takes us to our second readings.
These next bills will receive their second reading and be considered by the council. Bill number 18-030, an ordinance amending Chapter 9 of the Code of the City of Independence, Missouri to permit sale of certain fireworks. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 18-031, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity as a qualifying community housing development organization for the development of affordable housing utilizing home program funds in an amount not to exceed $363,070. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 18-032, an ordinance approving the amended petition for establishment of the new town at Harmony Community Improvement District, establishing the district and making findings and authorizing actions related to the establishment of the district. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes. This takes us to our first reading, excuse me.
These next bills will receive their first reading and then their second reading and consideration by the council at the next regularly scheduled meeting. Bill number 18-033, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Redford Construction in the amount of $674,500 for the installation of pipe and water main on Hardy Avenue from Westport Road to 28th Street, and then authorizing future minor change orders not to exceed $67,450 and/or time extensions. Bill number 18-034, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to a tract of ground located at 401 North Kiger Road from District R12 two-family residential to District I1 industrial in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Bill number 18-035, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of acquiring general utility easements and temporary construction and grading easements for the Nolan Road Culvert Project, number 9814, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project. Bill number 18
Excuse me, Madam Mayor? I read the notes on this, and it talks about imminent danger of collapse. And I can't believe I'm going to suggest we read this as an emergency, but why are we not reading this as an emergency? I'm so confused.
We would certainly entertain that as staff.
I mean, am I misreading it? It says imminent danger of collapse.
And I can ask Morris Heidi, Deputy Director of Public Works, to come give you a quick update on that, just to be certain.
I would really appreciate that, Mr. City Manager. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, Morris Heidi, Assistant Public Works Director. There is no imminent threat for the roadway itself. This is actually a box culvert that is off of the right-of-way south of I-70. So there's no, you could certainly, we would entertain that as an emergency or whatever your pleasure is, but that would not necessarily speed up the design or the construction process in any way. So no immediate threat. We apologize if there was any or confusion on that language that was used. So
thank you, Mr. Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you for indulging me, Madam Mayor.
Bill number 18-036, an ordinance establishing the Department of Public Utilities, replacing the position of Director of Power and Light with the Director of Public Utilities, and naming Assistant City Manager Mark Randall as the Director of Public Utilities pursuant to Sections 3.14 and 5.13 of the Charter of the City of Independence, Missouri. Bill number 18-037, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for the Tybrook Estates located generally north of East Truman Road and west of South Powell Road at 600 South Powell Road. Bill number 18-038, an ordinance vacating a portion of the right-of-way of East 42nd Street and a portion of the right-of-way of the island at the intersection of East 42nd Street and East 42nd Terrace. Bill number 18-039, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to a tract of ground located at 313 North Missouri 291 Highway from District R6 Single Family Residential to District C2 General Commercial in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Bill number 18-040, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute an amended development agreement with Little Richard's Family Restaurant Incorporated.
Okay, thank you very much. This takes us to council member comments, and before I begin with that, we have a recognition that I'd like to ask Mr. City Manager if you would please introduce for our Young Professional of the Year award.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as you know, Independence for All, one of the key goals is customer service, and we have an employee who's being recognized by his profession for exactly that, so we thought it would be a nice touch to use this forum to recognize that. So tonight, one of your city employees, Josh Ice from Water Pollution Control, is being recognized by the Missouri Water Environment Association as the Young Professional of the Year for that industry, and Katie Mashman with MWEA is here to make that presentation. So I would ask her to come forward and make a couple brief remarks and present Mr. Ice with his award.
Thank you for your introduction. My name is Katie Moshman, and like the city manager said, I'm the co-chair for the Kansas City Area Young Professionals Committee of the Missouri Water Environment Association. I know that's a mouthful. I work for HDR in the Lee Summit office. So I'm here tonight to present the Young Professional of the Year award to Josh Ice. The award exists to recognize a young member, usually 35 years or younger, who has demonstrated a commitment to professionalism, by which we define it as excellence in the water industry, continual self-improvement, and engagement with our organization and the community at large. And as a part of the selection committee, we felt that Josh embodies all of these qualities. He's been working for the city for about a year now, and he hit the ground running and has been an asset to the Water Pollution Control Department from the start. Some of his responsibilities with the city include coordinating the stormwater permitting program, environmental investigations, developing the industrial wastewater pretreatment program, and working with citizens and businesses to achieve compliance with city codes. He's worked with environmental technicians to record standard operating procedures for the division, and he even composes articles and social media posts for public outreach and education for your city. He was nominated by Carla Pierce, who's here tonight, and she said this about Josh, that he's jumped right in with enthusiasm to make his position with the city his own. He takes initiative to get work done, collaborating with others both inside and outside the department. Please join me in congratulating Josh Ice as our Young Professional of the Year.
Congratulations. Okay, so this takes us to council member comments. I'll start on my left with Councilmember Van Camp.
As my predecessor said, reasonable people can come to reasonable conclusions. And although we may seem unreasonable, we are reasoning. And I hope to go forward with more reasoning.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to mention two things. Several of us were at the Independence School District Academy Awards on Thursday night, which was a very nice affair. They gave out a number of awards to both students and businesses that support the Academy program to the Independence School District, which is one of the leaders in the nation in the Academy program. So it was a nice evening, nice to be with a couple of you there. I also Saturday had the opportunity to attend the Missouri State Parliamentary Association meeting and give them the proclamation from the mayor and the city council, and so that was also a nice opportunity to meet a few folks from different parts of the state, as well as someone from Washington State that was here. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeLucy.
May 21 is a Monday, and that is the second annual cleanup for the City of Independence. It's being done a little bit different this year. Well, what's not different is the Chamber of Commerce is still in charge, and to sign up, they have a web sign-up sheet. iChamber.biz is how you type into your computer. It's only from 9 until 11 for the adults. Students from Fort Osage and Independence High Schools are cleaning up, I believe it's 4 parks in the city. And the adults are going to be separated from the children, who are young adults themselves. But I encourage everyone to go to iChamber.biz, May 21, only a few hours. And if we all pitch in, the city can look pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Huff.
I have nothing.
Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Saturday, I attended the International Day of the Child, presented a proclamation there. That was awesome. This was the 4th annual, the first one at Fairmont, the heart of Fairmont. It was good weather, great times. It was a little different change there because we moved it from Hill Park to Fairmont, but it was well attended and it was fun. And looking forward to the second annual cleanup. We had over 300 volunteers last year. We make a heck of a dent, but by gosh, 6 months later, it looks like we didn't do anything. So it's human involvement, but it's a community involvement that goes on all the time. So thank you, everybody, for last year that came out, and thanks for everybody who's going to come out this year.
Thank you. Councilman Doherty.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. I did speak with some of the organizers of the cleanup that's happening on May 21st. They were feeling a little nervous that they're a little bit behind in getting the word out. So it is kind of coming up on us. So please do go to the Chamber website for more information. And if you can sign up to help, that'd be great. Or if you could just show up, that'd probably be okay too. Work through the Chamber to organize that in your time. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is a city holiday, a state holiday for in honor of President Truman's birthday. So our offices will be closed tomorrow. Of course, our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week services that we provide the city will be on point, but the offices will be closed in commemoration of President Truman's birthday. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Just in the spirit of what Councilmember Perkins and DeLucy mentioned, next Monday night, our Truman Fellow, Kristen Ayers, will be making a study session presentation regarding some forums she's been having with our local trash haulers and things that we can do to minimize waste and refuse around the community, but also how that practice is conducted within the City of Independence. So council will give us direction to work on that. That's a component of it, and we'll share those thoughts with you next week.
Okay, thank you very much.
May 29th. I'm ahead of myself.
Not next week. You just got an extension
We are
on your deadline.
yeah.
It's theirs.
Saved by the teacher. There you go.
Yeah. I'm just going to mention this just while I'm thinking of it, which is more and more important, we approved tonight a community improvement district for Newtown Harmony, very exciting project that we've been working on for a long while. This issue of trash, cleanliness of our city, and certainly public safety continued to be topmost in our minds of our citizens. So I'm going to suggest, as we continue to develop our economic development policies for the city, that we include these in any CID, NID, TDD, any of those, economic development tools that we apply to, work with those groups to say, ask them to include measures of neighborhood cleanup, pedestrian enhancements, and public safety in their planning. I know that there's, especially Councilmember Perkins has a couple kind of being looked at in his district, so we will bring that forward for future discussion in developing our economic development policy. But as we all know, and Councilmember Perkins and Councilmember DeLucy said today, if we all just continually made that a priority and took our proactive action to keep things picked up, it would make a big improvement. But I think we have some opportunity here to make that a little bit more, those expectations and strategies more evident in our community moving forward. Anything else?
Who did not get an extension on their homework is me. I will be presenting the submitted budget to the council next week, so thank you for that reminder.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.